We did get a present from the UPS guy though. Yup. Cam's here.
Caution, I'm a hack. I learned everything I know from a guy leaned against a shade tree, having a drink and smoking a cigarette. Hey, welcome back. So last video was a little frustrating. Got the CD009 ready to go in, or ready to bolt up, except there's no clutch disc. So that's my fault. You know, we make mistakes. So hopefully the clutch disc will be in a couple days, 3 days, I don't know. And we can put the motor and transmission together and get it stabbed in the vehicle. But to get it in there, we've got to push it outside, paint the K-member, find the motor mounts, get those painted and put together and put them in because they're not in yet. Also, the transmission cross member isn't here yet. It was said it was delivered. I never got it. Long story short, they're sending me another one, so we need it. I got to finish mounting the clutch master cylinder. Clutch master cylinder was what I was working on last week when I ended. I've got to enlarge the hole that it goes through. That's no big deal. We'll get that done. We'll mount the remote reservoir for the clutch. I've got to make a bracket for that. And yeah, there's lots of stuff. We could also go ahead and start the fuel pressure regulator. I've got to mount that and get it ran. So there's plenty of stuff to keep us busy for the next few days until that clutch disc comes in. But I'm going to tell you right now, if by Friday it's not here, I'm pretty sure I'm going to go ahead and try to put the motor in and start the fuel injection system and hooking it up and moving on, because I just got to keep moving, and we'll be down to the point where it's like, okay, yeah, it's just a transmission to put in, you know, and not as much stuff. So anyways, let's get to work and see what we can find to do. First thing I'm going to do is open up that hole. I wasn't able to find a carbide bit this morning for whatever reason, so I got a grinding stone. It'll probably take longer than I want it to, but yeah, let's get that done to where we can get the master cylinder where it fits in there nice. Finally got the clutch master cylinder fully installed. It's all bolted down, good to go. The thing does come with a gasket on it, so it's all sealed up. The next thing we're going to do is figure out what we're going to do for the reservoir. I've got this is the rubber tube it comes with. This just goes on it. I've got it routed up here. I think we're going to make us a bracket, something like this. I'm not exactly sure how it was originally, but I think this would work nice. So let me get some cardboard out and we'll see what I can fab up. What do you think? I kind of like it. And then this will mount to the back side of that. Boom, we're good to go. I have a piece of metal that's a piece of scrap that I'm going to transfer this to. Then we'll grind that down and test fit it. And if it fits good, then we'll send it, paint it, put it in. I transferred our template over to a piece of metal, and I don't know what's going on over there, but sorry about all the heavy equipment. Anyways, I'm going to cut that out. Just clamp it down with a pair of vice grips to hold it. Cut it out with a death wheel and should be fine. There it is. Turned out pretty good. Fits over that just fine. Let's make sure we can put the end on it. I'm not going to push these Christmas trees in all the way. I want to be able to take them out. That fits just like it's supposed to. So yeah, basically that's what we'll end up with. I'm completely okay with that, and I may tighten this down, just make sure this doesn't need to be tweaked, because we can actually tweak this to make it more level if we need to. I switched just over from the Christmas trees to this more modern style fastener. It's not quite as long, so I'm gonna put a nut on this and just make sure everything tightens down and it's gonna be okay. And if I need to tweak it, now's the time before I put paint on it. It does lean back quite a bit. I'm gonna try to straighten it up just a little. Just give it a little tweak there. It's much better. Yeah, I like that a lot better. We got this thing painted. Let's go ahead and see if we can't get it together. GM secures that line with a zip tie because you don't want it too tight because it's plastic and it'll just break. Good enough for GM, it's good enough for me. There we go. I had several people ask me why I didn't paint that cross member while I had all this apart and had it painted. Because I'm going to do it in satin black. I'm also going to use the cardboard method because it'll be just fine. I'm not going to take this off and spend a bunch of time on it. Put a second coat on this thing. Looks good enough for me. I'm gonna let it dry a little bit. I'll push this car back inside. We're getting close to being done for today. It's getting late, but yeah, I feel like I've made a little progress and we'll just keep moving. I think the next thing we may tackle is the fuel pressure regulator. I got to get it mounted and got to learn how to make custom AN lines. I've never made any, so we'll see how that goes. Well, I thought I'd go ahead and see about getting some of this wiring back in it. This is the headlight harness. Yeah, I thought we'd get it in. That'd be one less thing to look at. I also cleaned all this off. It was really nasty. Next thing I'll put in is this piece of wire loom. Originally, it just zip tied down in here, but I'm not zip tied. Originally, it push pinned down in here, like Christmas trees or whatever you call them. And we're going to use a more modern fastener, but same basic concept.
Well, yesterday, y'all didn't know this, but I did nothing. It's not exactly true. My kids graduated kindergarten, and I'm not going to miss that. So I went and did that. I was done by 9. I thought, oh, I'm going to run around and get a few things this morning. Well, a few things turned to an all-day event. We did get a present from the UPS guy, though. Yup. Cam's here. So, I didn't know if it'd make it in time for this build at all, so I'm super excited about that. So let's go ahead and I've got the new cam, new springs, I got a rocker trunnion upgrade and new push rods and seals for the valve. So let's see if we can get all those in and button this up, and we're gonna call this a video. And then next video, the clutch is on its way, and hopefully it'll be here. I'm hoping today, tomorrow at the latest. So if it comes in today or tomorrow, next video we'll get the motor and trans stabbed in this thing, and we'll really get to getting, because I've got to hear it run. I've just got to hear this thing run. So yeah, I'm gonna get back to work. Let's do this. So the first thing I'm gonna do is come through and pull all the rockers on both sides. I have a piece of cardboard over there. I'm just gonna lay them out the same way they came out. Now, I don't know that it's necessarily that big a deal, but they are kind of wore together between the valve itself and the rocker. Everything else is getting changed, so none of that matters. But it can't hurt anything. Keep them, going back to where they came from. So I'm going to pull these off right quick and get them laid over there, and we'll just keep moving forward. Let's pull the plugs out, because we're going to be turning it over, so. Next, we'll pull the timing cover back off. Now we're going to stick the crank bolt back in, pull it back to top dead center. Boom, perfect. Pull the bolts out. Now, just let the chain drop. It ain't going nowhere. Take the retainer back off. These are just two of the water pump bolts. They just happen to thread perfectly into the cam. Makes a really nice handle. All right, so here's what we got. We got some 5/16 wooden dowel rods. Some people are like, oh, you're gonna leave wood inside the motor. Well, this is better than having to tear the motor completely apart, in my opinion, if we drop a lifter. Just make sure you've turned it. It'll slide right in, and it'll bottom out. One dowel rod is enough to do both sides. And one of them will be a little longer than the other side. I didn't cut it even. So. All right. Let's see if we can pull the cam out. Baby. Pretty as you please. So for those of you that don't follow me on Instagram, I mean, seriously, why don't you follow me on Instagram? But BTR Truck Norris 212 22X.
.552, .552, 107 LSA. All right, so I've got the first part of it here all lubed up. I had a subscriber point something out that I did wrong when I pulled the last engine apart. He said that the number one rule of putting in an LS, or the number one rule with LS engines, is never look at the cam bearings. And I looked, and that's why the motor was bad. It makes sense, so we're not going to look at these. We're just going to stab this in here, and it'll be fine, right? It's like Schrodinger's cam. You know, we don't know if the cam bearings are good or bad if we don't look. So they're both good and bad. Made sense to me. I know you'd be tempted to spin this cam right now to lube the bottom of these, but I promise you, that's how bad things happen. Ask me how I know. All right. There's that. There we go. All right, these are 18 foot-pounds. So there we go. And these bolts are 26 foot-pounds. By the way, we got our marks lined back up just fine, so we're good to go. There we go. All right, so let's put the cover back on. I put a little bit of silicone in the corners once again. You know, better safe than sorry. And you still have to line this up. But see, this time, the last time I did it, I didn't have a seal in it. This time I do. But this kit that I had to borrow again, I'm gonna have to buy one. comes with a smaller piece, and you just push it straight in to the seal like that until it seats, and it centers it up. Then you can put your bolts in. All right, 18 foot-pounds. So I brought this cylinder up to top dead center, and this is how we're going to do this. I've already done one cylinder because I have a tool and I didn't know how to use it, and I didn't want to have to explain it to y'all and not know what I was talking about at all. So this was a free tool to me. A buddy of mine picked it up, and I think his wife picked it up for $1 at a local discount store. And I'll be honest with you, it's definitely worth $1, but I don't know what its original cost was, but it was too much. It'll get you through the job, but it is very tedious to work with, and yeah, eventually I'm going to buy a better one. That's really what I'm telling you. I think this is I don't know where it came from originally, but it is an LS spring compressor. It's got a bolt that goes into either one of the rocker locations, and this did not come with any instructions whatsoever, so I was winging it like I always do. So go ahead and start those. I'm going to run these two in and just line it up as best we can to the center between those springs. These ain't got to be super tight, just snug them down. One ugga-dugga is plenty. And then the actual bolt in the middle, you just want to make sure, well, what I did was, there again, I don't actually know what I'm doing. I was making this up as I went. Loosen that up. I ran this down into this lower plate just enough to where some threads were coming through. Then ran this down, locked it. Now let's see if we can run it, how far we can run it down with the inside. All right. See if we can get the retainers out. Not quite. It's all right. We're going to do the rest of it by hand because I don't want to run this bolt too far down. By the way, make sure you put some, I've got assembly lube on my bolt, but make sure you put some sort of oil or grease or something on it. There's those retainers. So the thing that was holding me up on the first one was this top plate right here has a groove cut in it to go over the keepers, or not the keepers, but the retainers. And it gets stuck in there. It's not a very good fit. So guess what I did? Turned it upside down. It works a million times better. The first time I did this, it took me, no joke, I spent 15 minutes on the first two. So now we're at this point. I'm going to run the bolt back out. Stop there. I don't want it all the way out. I just want it mostly out. We'll run it the rest of the way out with the wrench. Oh, come on now. There we go. See, now it's loose. Take the bolt all the way out. We're going to remove the springs. Then, these are the valve stem seals. You grab them with something and pull them out. Ours have oil soaked at the bottom. I don't know if that's because it was upside down or I don't know. But we're going to clean that oil up before we reassemble it. Now, I have a BTR hat valve stem seal kit. This was just all a kit that I bought. I actually bought it from Hawks Performance as a kit. Of course, they sell it through BTR, and BTR ships it out. So, just make sure those are seated all the way down. And do yourself a favor, make sure them valves will pull all the way up, and they move fine, so we're okay. Grab you a pair of springs. I index all my spring bottoms the same. Is that important? I actually couldn't tell you, but it is something I do. I don't know why, I just do it. Then put the retainers back on. This is what held me up really last time, was putting it back together. Now that I've flipped this tool over to the way it's not supposed to be, I think it's going to go much better. Alright, so next thing we're going to do is the BTR Premium GM LS Rocker Arm Trunnion Upgrade Kit. TK002NB. Here's the rocker arm. This is the trunnion inside in here. And what goes bad is on these stock GM units is this outer ring will get wore. And basically it comes loose at maybe higher RPMs, I don't know. But the needle bearings in there will come out and they just bounce around inside your motor until, you know, it's catastrophic. So that'd be bad. So theirs replaces those needle bearings, a new trunnion, and then it's got a washer that holds the needle bearings in place, and then a locking ring on the outside of that on both sides. So it's securely in there and it can't come out. So that's what we're going to put in. But to get it apart, look, I bought myself a vise. It's about time. I've needed a vise for years. I finally spent the money yesterday and bought one. So what I've got is a 22 millimeter. It'll go on one side like this. We've got a 1/2 inch. It'll go on that side like that. We're going to put it in here and just clamp it down until it pushes it all the way through, and it'll come apart. And then we'll put the new one in. There's not much to this. It goes pretty easy. It'd work better if my vise was mounted. It's not, so I'm having to use a dead blow to get the pressure I need. Also, if you had a press, you could do this with a press, but this is what I got on hand, so this is what we're going to use. And that's it, and it all flies apart. Needle bearings go everywhere. But this is what you're left with, is just the bare rocker. The next step is to put their new bearing in. There's writing on the bearing, I hope you can see that. The writing faces out. And it'll be kind of flush at the edge, which is fine. And take your trunnion, slide it through. It'll push out this little plastic piece. It comes with these washers. It comes with the washers that fit right over that. That way they don't touch. Then get your next bearing. It also goes with the words facing out. And then there's a washer that goes on that side so you can press it all together. Make sure the trunnion still moves like it's supposed to, nice and free. Then there's a retainer that goes on. And then these clips are real beefy. And just put them on. I know you can't see this, but there's one side just like that. And the other side, just like that. That bad boy's done. And I'll just get the rest of them done and we'll go from there. So I went ahead and installed all the new push rods. I got assembly lube on everything. I'm going to set this down in here. Then we're going to run, by the way, I have all new hardware from BTR as well. It's a 8mm 12 point. I have number one at top dead center, so with that being said, we don't have to be concerned about having to press down on the valve springs because the valves should be all the way up, the cam should be all the way down, and these torque to 22 foot-pounds. Alright, so cylinder one done. I'm going to do this in the firing order for the LS, which is 1, 8, 7, 2, 6, 5, 4, 3. So we'll do number 8 next. Well, I got the valve covers on it, 106 inch-pounds if you're curious. I'm so happy that cam came in before I put this motor in. It was truly a blessing that I didn't have that clutch, because I'd have been doing this over the fenders and that would have just taken forever. It takes long enough even when you can get to the motor, but it just takes so much more effort when you can't just, reach right there and get it. So I appreciate y'all watching. We're getting close. Clutch disc is supposed to be here either today or tomorrow, but you never know. You never know. So we still got some stuff to do before the engine goes in, or we could do before the engine goes in. So we'll just keep working. That's all we can do, is pretend like everything's fine and keep on working. I have 14 more days past after today that I have to be done in 14 days. So we're getting close. It'd be fantastic if I could fire this thing up and maybe drive it once before I left. We'll see. Thanks for watching, and yeah, we'll see you on the next one.